Should a drug dealer be spared jail to look after the youngest of his 22 kids? Let's talk to Ray Barry from Real Fathers for Justice. Ray, good morning to you.
Good morning to you as well, Mike. Hi there.
Good morning to you. Has justice been done in this case, then? Because this guy, you know, they found 350 quid's worth of cannabis at his home, but because he's got a 7-month-old baby, he's been spared jail.
Well, I think it's wrong. But I think you've got to look a bit wider as to why this has happened. And there's been a move afoot triggered by Cherie Blair about 10 years ago to keep women out of jail primarily because of their childcare responsibilities. And so, quite unfairly, women who commit similar crimes are being spared jail, quite wrongly in my opinion. And so no one should really be surprised when, I mean, it's sauce for the goose, it's sauce for the gander.
So because
nobody should be surprised, really, when a guy like this takes advantage of the same stupidity in the legal system.
So you would have sent this guy to jail for 18 months?
Yes. I think if somebody commits an offence, having a child should not be an excuse to excuse the punishment for it.
What happens to that child, though? The upbringing of that child is really important, isn't it?
Well, yes. I mean, you can say, well, what's going to happen to the child while the parent's in prison, whether it's the mum or the dad? But you've got to look at the wider consequences of this, and this drives behaviour. That if somebody knows that if they've got care of a child, they'll be let off punishment, then they'll think, well, why not go ahead and risk committing the crime? There's got to be an incentive not to commit crime, and also you've got to stop driving this this kind of initiative to have children in order to get council flats, in order to avoid punishments in court. It's almost as though having a child can be a passport, and you know, you're not having a child just for the child's own sake and because you love the child and because you want to have a child, but because it's a passport to financial gain.
So would you put a limit on the amount of benefit you can claim then? Because I mean, I'm just wondering which is the biggest story, the fact that he's not going to jail for possessing cannabis, or the fact that he's got 22 kids.
Well, I mean, again, I think you've got to look a bit wider than just the behaviour of this bloke. There's 22 children being born to mothers, and I mean, in this day and age, with contraception and abortion effectively on demand, no mother has a child unless she wants to give birth to the child. So what on earth are these women thinking of, having children with this fella who's obviously not going to stay around to support the children financially?
But it maybe he charms them into thinking that they are the one on every single occasion.
Well, I mean, quite honestly, I don't think they can be very bright if they're taken in by this. I mean, he's got 22 children. I mean, he acknowledges that he never sees at least 10 of them. I mean, if this guy charms somebody, then I think they've been very easily charmed. Anybody who looks at this fella thinks, this isn't, you know, is this the man that I want to settle down with and me and him will live together and raise our child and have a happy family? So
you're blaming the mums, the women, just as much as this fella?
I think so, yes. I think you've got to look at the wider picture in this, and it isn't just one bloke having 22 children. I mean, we're not in the Victorian age now where, you know, where passing men impregnate nursing kind of serving girls and they end up in the workhouse. You know, these mums don't have children unless they want to have children. So what on earth are they doing having children with this fella?
All right, well, thank you for that, Ray. Ray Barry from Real Fathers for Justice. Katie Hopkins on the line to us next. Katie, good morning to you.
Good morning.
What's your take, then, on this guy in Cumbria?
I think it sums up everything that's wrong with the UK at the moment, isn't it? We can't deport people from our country because we have to look after their human rights. We can't put people in prison because it would upset their family. And we can't curb the number of children people have. We just have to keep on paying for them. So whilst many of your listeners at home might have wanted another baby but realised they couldn't afford it, this guy gets to go around, you know, mating like a rabbit wherever he feels like it, and it gets him out of jail free. Fantastic.
So he should have gone down?
Of course he should have gone down. You know, we spend far too much time, personally, I think we spend far too much time worrying about, what will happen to the relationship he has with his children, and not enough time thinking, well, actually, he's responsible for that.
Mm-hmm.
He's accountable for that. He should have thought of that before he did the wrong thing, and it's his problem now, not ours.
But what would happen if Dad went to jail for 18 months? What would become of 7-month-old Barry?
Well, I think poor old 7-month-old Barry would be taken into care, but I think that's the consequence of your actions.
But nobody would.
Unless we keep matching up consequences and actions, the message we're sending through to the sort of people that have the mentality that this guy has is, if you have a child, it is a little get-out-of-jail-free card. Have a child and you will be able to stay at home. That's the message we're sending. That's the message they'll take away, and that's the message we shouldn't be given.
But of course, we've seen this applied to women, haven't we, over recent years? You know, women have committed crimes, and because of mitigating circumstances, they've been spared jail too.
I think sometimes we have to take a much harder line and recognise the fact that this society is going to pot at the moment. We continuously have these stories where we're forking out for people that have an inordinate amount of children. We're paying for their houses. We're paying for the £60,000, welfare they receive each year. And I think it's just time to call a stop to it all and say, look, you did this. This was wrong. You're going to jail. You have to pay the price for what you've done, and stop kind of holding up this little baby like a miracle birth and trying to pull on our heartstrings, because frankly I don't have a heart at the best of time, and there is no sympathy for this man.
So why do you think he's had 22 kids?
I think he just doesn't know how to stop himself. I think for many people, as we've seen on Benefit Street recently, children are actually just a mean of accessing more income. And when you look on websites like entitled2.co.uk, it helps you see how to maximise the amount of benefit you can claim each week. And one of those ways is by having children. So, be under no illusion. When people can take away other benefits and can penalise you with sanctions for not turning up for a job interview, not trying to get a job, one of the things they won't take away from you is child benefit. These people know that. These people keep on having children because it provides them with a regular income.
Have you seen a photo of this fella?
Yes.
What do you think? I mean, he says, doesn't he, that women just throw themselves at him. He says he's never had to chase a woman, they always chase after him.
Yeah, and I could show you some photos of women, I suppose, would be the sort that would chase after him. I'm not sure they could move at any speed, but certainly they'd be the sort of women that probably would for him, because not all women are oil paintings either. And I think I'm quite a good example of that.
But why would any woman, have a one-night stand with this fella? Because presumably, he says every time he has a one-night stand, the girl ends up getting pregnant. Well, what the heck's going on there?
I think he's probably got sperm that's got exceedingly sharp elbows and know how to fight their way through a crowd. But what I would also say is you're trying to, think about this in terms of your own logic, your own mentality, and you're a man that goes out to work every day, you research what you do, and you try very hard to do what you do very well. I'm not trying to pay you a compliment there. But for him, he's not that type of guy. This is clearly the lifestyle he has. He clearly makes women happy by having children with them. And for many women, a child is a sign of a relationship with a person, and they like to hold on to it. So I think that's what women are doing.
Katie, thank you. Katie Hopkins.